This Saturday is International Fight Week, UFC 317, Ilia Topuria versus Charles Oliveira for the vacant lightweight title. And this is going to be my full card predictions. We're going to go through every single fight on the card. And this is actually a quality card. It's mid for International Fight Week, but we have a lot of great matchups. Obviously, the main event. Then we have Alexandre Pantoja versus Kai Kara-France for the flyweight title, which I think is criminally underrated. We have Brandon Royval versus Joshua Van after Manel Kape pulled out again. We have Beneil Dariush versus Renato Moicano, a fight we've been looking forward to for a while. I believe it was on 311 early this year. We had Islam Makhachev, Arman Tsarukyan fall off. And opening up the main card, a banger of prospects matchup, Payton Talbott versus Felipe Lima. I am going to go through UFC 317 and give you my predictions for each and every single fight. And I'm actually looking forward to this card. Again, I know it's not the greatest International Fight Week card. For Super Bowl event of the year for the UFC, it's not that great. But this is the first quality UFC card in a long time. So I'm looking forward to it. Let's jump right into it. But before I do that, like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications if you enjoy these types of videos. But let's jump right into it. We have, did I say this was a good card? We have Christopher Ewert versus Jackson McVey. The silhouette of each that we don't even have a picture of them. We couldn't even come up with a picture for both of them. Listen, this fight was thrown together last second. It was originally supposed to be, actually, let me pull this up so I don't butcher this. It was originally supposed to be Cedriquez Dumas versus Jackson McVey, which got thrown together last minute as well. Dumas pulled out. I seen some rumors online. Apparently it had something to do with his ankle monitor. I don't know if that was a troll or not. And Christopher Ewert stepping in on relatively short notice to take on Jackson McVey, who was fighting Cedriquez Dumas on short notice. If you look at his resume, he fought literally a week and 3 days ago. Got a brutal KO win. Before that, I watched this fight. He got a Bravo choke, got a takedown, immediately locked that up. And honestly, I haven't seen a lot of tape on Jackson McVey, but he seems all right. He seems gritty. He seems like Kentucky State Fair title contender. Like, that's the mix with Malibu's Most Wanted. That's kind of the vibes he gives me. Christopher Ewert, not fighting the best opposition either. 5-0 in his last fight, unanimous decision. 5-2 in the fight before that. And 11-9, the guy he fought before that. Listen, they're both undefeated prospects. I think they're both Kentucky State Fair fighters. Here's what I'm basing it on. Jackson McVey is gritty for sure and well-rounded, has okay striking. I think it was it Ben Fowler? No, I think it was Jarquise Williams, where he just tagged him up against the fence, beat him up in the dirty boxing, and just TKO'd him standing. And then the fight after that, he took the guy down and subbed him. And the fight after that KO, it was a week ago. He's in shape. Christopher's just taking this opportunity because the UFC's offering him an opportunity. He hasn't fought in 5 months, and the last guy he fought was not the greatest of opposition. I mean, Jackson McVey's only 6-0, so I guess it's really not that bad. But I'm going to go with Jackson McVey. All this to say I'm going Jackson McVey. The prediction none of you guys probably care about. I'm going to say he subs him. He's got a decent amount of subs on his record. He has decent grappling. I'm going to pick him to sub him. You know, I'm going to say first round sub. Jackson McVey gets his moment, calls for a money fight, Iron Turtle style in the post fight. But yeah, I think Jackson McVey has decent dirty boxing, has decent striking, has good wrestling and good jiu-jitsu. I'm going to take him on a week's notice or a week turnaround while he's still in shape versus 5 months probably off the couch, Christopher Ewert. That's what I'm going with. Next fight on the card, we have Jhonata Diniz versus Alvin Hines. This was originally supposed to be Diniz versus a Taffa brother. This got switched around. Oh, man, this is really hard-hitting matchups for International Fight Week. But anyway, Jhonata Diniz coming off that loss against Marcin Tybura, doctor stoppage where probably shouldn't have been stopped, but he got out-grappled that entire fight. I would have loved to have seen it go to a third round because Tybura gassed himself out in full mount, raining down ground and pound. But, man, heavyweight is so garbage. It is so garbage. Fight before that beat Carl Williams, where Carl Williams didn't even shoot a takedown. I swear he was told not to grapple. He's fighting Alvin Hines, who's coming in on relatively short notice. It was supposed to be a Taffa brother. Look, heavyweight really could go either way. I know that Diniz has decent stand-up, and I just think this guy, you know, Alvin Hines, this bald-headed Looks like a roided Stone Cold Steve Austin. Even though you can't see him here, I'm looking at a picture on Tapology. You can only see his silhouette here. I think this is going to be your typical, stereotypical NPC heavyweight matchup where both guys are kind of shitty. And I think Jhonata Diniz is just going to be better on the feet. I think he'll be able to stuff the takedowns of Alvin Hines, who's probably not that good. Haven't seen a lot, just barely could find any footage of him. And I think Diniz will box him up. I mean, Diniz boxed up Carl Williams. I mean, Carl Williams didn't shoot. He KO'd Austin Lane. I think I've picked against Diniz in every fight except the Marcin Tybura fight, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not going to pick against him against Alvin Hines coming in on like a week or two notice. Thank God the Taffa brother pulled out because this would have been on the main card. Originally, Diniz versus Taffa was on the main card. Anyway, I'll say Diniz first round KO. Has decent KO ability. Has decent striking. I'm picking him to get it done. First round KO. Clips him on the feet. Follows him to the ground. Ground and pound TKO for Jhonata Diniz. But if Alvin Hines improved his wrestling and comes to wrestle the entire time and has decent cardio to sustain that, he could beat Diniz. But I'm going to pick Diniz first round KO. Next fight on the card. The last early prelim. We have Niko Price versus Jacobe Smith. Really looking forward to this banger. Listen, this is actually a decent fight. Jacobe Smith has looked incredible. Brutally KO'd Preston Parsons, who I think is a decent fighter in his last fight. Fight before that was on Dana White's Contender Series. Got a brutal KO win there. Before that, not fighting the best opposition outside in Fury FC. But Niko Price is a dead body, man. He's a dead body. He's a sacrifice. I mean, Tapology right now has him plus 800. He's coming off a loss against Temba Garimbo, who lost to the dead body of Vicente Luque, who just lost to bummy-ass Kevin Holland. I don't mean to go through all these different, MMA math routes. But his last win's against Alex Morono, who has regressed so terribly. Before that, got KO'd by Robbie Lawler, a washed Robbie Lawler. Thank God Robbie Lawler KO'd him. Before that, got KO'd by Phil Rowe. Before that, beat Alex Oliveira. So in the last few years, last 4 years, basically a win over Alex Morono. Jacobe Smith has filthy one-punch KO power. He has good grappling. Niko Price isn't primarily a grappler. So I don't know how you would expect Niko Price to come in and be able to get the job done. I mean, where? If you're picking, let me see if anybody, no, 4% on Tapology is picking Niko Price. I don't know where you would see him winning. He's somewhat tough, but at some point you take all this damage over the course of your career, your lights are just getting shut off. And I think this is one of those matchups, particularly at welterweight, where you have a Dana White's Contender Series guy who hasn't lost yet, 10-0, undefeated prospect. They love to hype up the guys off Dana White's Contender Series. They're like, man, who can we get Jacobe Smith? International Fight Week on the prelims. Who can he embarrass? And it's Niko Price. Niko Price should be retired. He should be retired. Jacobe Smith, 29 years old, 35-year-old. Niko Price is going to beat him. Now, Niko Price does have a 4-inch reach advantage and a 2-inch height advantage. I don't think that's going to matter at all because Jacobe Smith is better everywhere. He's younger, he's faster, he's more powerful, he's got better wrestling, and Niko Price is damaged goods. So I'm going to go Jacobe Smith to get it done. I think he probably beats him in the first round. I can't even imagine Niko Price getting a fluky KO. It's not like Jacobe Smith has taken any damage. His chin isn't worn at all like Niko Price's is. I think Jacobe Smith goes out there and probably flatlines him in the first round. Worse than Robbie Lawler did. So I'm going Jacobe Smith first round KO. Next fight on the card, the first regular prelim. We have Terrence McKinney versus Vyacheslav Borshchev. This is a tough fight, boys. This is a tough fight to pick. I'm going to go with Terrence McKinney, but I don't trust him outside of one round. He's like trading wins and losses. He was hyped up so badly at one point in time. He's coming off a win over Damir Hadzovic. Does that mean anything, really? Quite frankly, I don't think so. Lost to Esteban Ribovic. Not a horrible loss. Beat Brendan Moreau. Straight up garbage can. Beat Mike Braden. Straight up garbage can. Lost to Nazim Sadikov. Not a horrible loss to have. But it's like every time Terrence McKinney fights someone who isn't a straight-up scrub, it seems like he ends up losing. And Vyacheslav Borshchev is a good striker, primarily a kickboxer, has decent hands, but he's been in a lot of wars. He's coming off a loss against Tom Nolan. He went to a split decision against James Jhonata, which isn't particularly impressive. Before that, lost to Chase Hooper, took a lot of damage in that fight. Before that, Nazim Sadikov draw. Brutal fight, took a lot of damage. And I just think Terrence McKinney, especially in that first round, he has so much explosive power. I think he's probably going to put Borshchev away. At some point, it's got to catch up to you. Borshchev has been in way too many wars. And I just think Terrence McKinney is going to come out fast, explosive, looking for the finish. If he doesn't find it, I could see another draw. I could see McKinney winning a 10-8 and losing the next 2 rounds. But I think McKinney's able to get him out of there. And also, I think McKinney can out-grapple Borshchev. I think McKinney's wrestling is good enough where he could go out there and mix in a wrestling game plan. Terrence McKinney's in a weird spot because I feel like he doesn't even know where his fight IQ's at, because he knows when he goes out there guns a-blazing, he can find a finish, first-round KO. But sometimes, like in the Nazim Sadikov fight, he went out there and tried to grapple. He doesn't know quite how to conserve his energy and maybe look for the finish early, but make sure he's not gassed if he's not able to put him away. But I still think he gets it done. I think Vyacheslav Borshchev took too much damage. I think coming out in this fight, I think Terrence McKinney's going to have a speed advantage and a massive power advantage. And Borshchev doesn't really have the crazy finishing ability coming back, where McKinney not only has power that Borshchev has to respect, but also has wrestling that Borshchev has to respect. So I'm going to go Terrence McKinney to get it done, first round KO over Vyacheslav Borshchev. Next fight on the card, the one you guys all have been waiting for, International Fight Week. We have Viviane Araujo versus Tracy Cortez. I'm picking Tracy Cortez. Listen, Araujo, I picked her a little bit here and there in the past because she's a gritty veteran who's fought decent opposition and lost. But she's 38 going on 39. I mean, that's really the entire synopsis of this pick. How can I pick Viviane Araujo at damn near 39 years old, trading wins and losses? Lost to Karine Silva in the last fight. Not horrible. She at least went to decision with her. Before that, lost to Natalia Silva, or she beat Karine Silva. I'm sorry. Which isn't, Karine Silva was getting hyped up a little bit at that point in time. Lost to Natalia Silva, who's literally a title contender. Beat Jennifer Maia, lost to Amanda Ribas, lost to Alexa Grasso. Those losses aren't horrible. Tracy Cortez coming in off the loss against Rose Namajunas where she's wearing fake eyelashes. I think Tracy Cortez cares more about having like this simpy MMA fan base than actually being a good fighter. So I could see a pick for Viviane Araujo. Has good jiu-jitsu, decent on the feet, but she's 38 years old. I think Tracy Cortez gets it done. I'm going to pick her to get it done. Cortez, I do worry because she likes to mix in the grappling, and Araujo does have good BJJ, but I don't think she's going to submit her off her back. So I think Cortez will get it done. It'll probably be a boring women's MMA typical decision fight where Cortez maybe squeaks out a 29-28 decision victory. But yeah, I'm not going to pick a 38-year-old Viviane Araujo. I've done fell for it too many times. I'm going Tracy Cortez. Next fight on the card. This is actually low-key a banger. We have Hyder Amil versus Jose Miguel Delgado. This is a heater, boys. This is a heater. This could go either way. Hyder Amil is kind of low-key trash, but he's such a savage, man. He can take damage. He still has a really good chin. But at some point, it's going to give out. At some point, it's going to give out. I don't know if this is going to be the fight, though. He's coming off a win over William Gomez, where everyone kind of thought Gomez should have won that fight. Gomez tagged him on the feet. Before that, beat Zhang Young Lee. Before that, beat Fernie Garcia. I didn't think he looked all that impressive in the Fernie Garcia fight early on before he got the finish. And then before that, Dana White's Contender Series win. You have Jose Delgado coming off his UFC debut against Conor Matthews, where he brutally KO'd him. And then before that, a nasty knee KO on Dana White's Contender Series. Just flatlined the dude face down. Oh, man. Who do you go with in this matchup? Initially, I'm leaning Hyder Amil. I just think if they go to war, man. Like, I think I picked Gomez, I'm pretty sure. I think I might have even picked Ji Young Lee against him. I'm not 100%. Let me actually check that real quick, just out of pure curiosity. Who did I pick in that matchup? Because I feel like I've been doubting Hyder Amil a bit. Did I pick Hyder Amil? Did I? No, I didn't. I picked him to get TKO'd by Lee. I just don't want to fall for it again. Jose Delgado's really good, has solid grappling, has solid kickboxing, probably has a significant speed advantage against Hyder Amil. because Amil is kind of like plodding and not particularly fast. And he's 35 years old at a lower weight class. At featherweight, 35 years old is old as hell. I know Alexander Volkanovski is the champion, but Hyder Amil does not have the skills of an Alexander Volkanovski. Jose Delgado is 27 years old. And I feel like he's slicker on the feet. You know what? I feel like if I pick against Hyder Amil again, I'm going to end up being wrong. So I'm going to pick Hyder Amil. It's going to be a close fight. Delgado's going to try to get him out of there, but Amil's going to survive and just walk him down and pressure him. It's going to be a very, very exciting fight. If Amil's chin can hold up, I think he wins the fight. I think he'll go out there. He'll just be able to weather the early storm. I think Delgado will probably gas himself out looking for a finish. And I see Hyder Amil just coming on strong in the later rounds. Has good grappling. Has good striking. Now, I know I didn't really think he won against William Gomez, and Gomez isn't that great. But I think Delgado is going to try to get him out of there and be unsuccessful, and then Hyder Amil is going to take over with that grit and determination in the second and third round. But does Delgado get finished? He's 9-1, hasn't taken a lot of damage himself, super well-rounded. I'm going to say he goes to decision. I'm going to say Hyder Amil versus Jose Delgado goes to like a 29-28 controversial decision. Hyder Amil gets the nod in another controversial fight. But I could see, on the other side of this, I could say, oh, Hyder Amil's going to walk into a big shot and Delgado's going to put him away because he's super diverse, has lots of, attacks that he's able to, he has power in all his limbs is what I'm trying to say. And I could see Amil walking onto a big shot and getting slumped or hurt really badly and not being able to recover. But up until this point, he's 11-0. He's been able to recover from all the other shots he's taken. So I'm gonna pick him to get it done in a very hard-fought decision against Jose Delgado. Next fight on the card, we have the featured prelim. We have Jack Hermansson versus Gregory Rodrigues. Great middleweight matchup. Good featured prelim. It's hard for me to pick Gregory Rodrigues after that stinker performance he put against Jared Cannonier earlier this year. How do you show up with 1 round of cardio? How do you show up for a 5-round main event with 1 round of fucking cardio? And that's what Gregory Rodrigues did. I just can't forgive him for that, man. He almost gets Jared Cannonier out of there in the first round and then gets brutalized after that. Eventually gets finished. Took a lot of damage. That was 4 months ago. Wasn't particularly long ago. Before that, beat Christian Leroy Duncan. Not that great. Beat Brad Tavares. Washed up. Beat Dennis Tululin. Literally washed up. Before that, lost to Bruno Fajeda via brutal KO. Jack Hermansson's criminally underrated for the middleweight division. Coming off a win where he brutally exposed Joe Pyfer. Bit of an exaggeration. Before that, lost to Roman Dolidze, but he was the better fighter than Roman Dolidze. He got caught in a bad position. Roman Dolidze ended up catching him in a calf slicer in a transition on the ground and just brutalized him after that. But Jack Hermansson was winning up until that point. Before that, beat Chris Curtis, which I think is a really solid win. That was a bit ago. Lost to Sean Strickland, split decision, but that shouldn't have been a split decision. He is 37 years old, but I don't know that Gregory Rodrigues is 33 years old, to be quite honest. He looks like he's 45. I don't know if it's because he's taken so much damage. I mean, that's insane. That is insane how much damage he took in that last fight against Jared Cannonier. And the fact that I just think I'm going to pick Jack Hermansson. I'm stumbling all over this one. Jack Hermansson, very technical on the feet, has good grappling. I think Gregory Rodrigues, he has big power in his hands. He has the finishing ability in his hands. But he's going to slow down after 1 round. Because, again, he only has 5 minutes of cardio, which is absolutely egregious for a supposed top-level fighter. I see Jack Hermansson keeping him at range, just peppering him up with combinations. I could see Gregory Rodrigues trying to mix in the grappling, but I don't know how successful he's going to be. We've never really seen someone just take down Jack Hermansson and out-grapple him and dominate him in the wrestling. Now, I know, granted, Roman Dolidze caught him in the calf slicer, but I don't think that's going to happen again. So even though I kind of can see Gregory Rodrigues getting the finish early, I'm not picking him again. I'm going to go Jack Hermansson to get it done. I think he's too good. He hasn't taken a lot of damage. He's been out for a bit. It's been 1.5 years since the Joe Pyfer fight, but he got it done over Joe Pyfer. I don't know if he was dealing with an injury or what after that, but Joe Pyfer, we know the kind of power Joe Pyfer has in his hands and the kind of finishing ability Joe Pyfer has. If Joe Pyfer ain't getting him out of there, I don't think Gregory Rodrigues is going to. We've seen that fight against, Jack Hermansson, Joe Pyfer, first 2 rounds. Joe Pyfer winning, landing good shots, outstriking Jack Hermansson. And then what happened? He slowed down. Now, granted, this isn't a 5-round fight, but Gregory Rodrigues only has 1 round cardio. So I see maybe Rodrigues having a decent first round, tagging Jack Hermansson up a little bit, but it's going to be competitive. Second and third round, Jack Hermansson strikes at range, lands the better shots. Gregory Rodrigues is plotting forward. I'm picking Jack Hermansson to get it done. I'm going to say unanimous decision. I'm going to say a 30-27 decision win for Jack Hermansson. Next fight on the card. Boys, opening up the main card, we have Payton Talbott versus Felipe Lima. Man, this is a heater. This is actually a heater. Man, Payton Talbott, Felipe Lima. This is prospect versus prospect. I know some people are like, man, they don't like Payton Talbott anymore. They're killing off a contender. I like when you see some of these young, hungry, up-and-coming guys fight each other early on in their careers. Payton Talbott got brutally exposed, kind of, by Hany Barcelos. I don't actually think he got exposed because I already knew his grappling was shit from when he fought Nick Aguirre. He got out-grappled the entire first round. After that, he was able to come back and get the finish there. After that, brutalized Cameron Simon. After that, brutalized Yanis Gamori. Then he fights Hany Barcelos. Hany Barcelos takes him down and exposes the holes in his game. And Payton Talbott's wrestling just really isn't that good. Then you have Felipe Lima, 14-1, coming into the UFC on short notice and I think it was short notice. Maybe I'm wrong on that. And submits Muhammad Naimov, who we just saw get a win last weekend in Baku. Went out there, was able to out-grapple him and find a sub. Then after that, beats Miles Johns. This is actually a tough fight. Payton Talbott, I think, has the striking advantage, but I don't think it's so significant that Felipe Lima, if the fight is standing, like he's going to be out of his, he's going to be just outmatched by Payton Talbot striking. I think Payton Talbot definitely has the striking advantage, probably maybe a speed advantage somewhat, at least with the hands, and has a power advantage. But Lima's good enough to keep up with him on the feet, and I think Lima can mix in the grappling and out-grapple Payton Talbot. I want to see them like square off. Usually I don't care about the stare downs or anything like that because Lima seems kind of small, honestly. I remember thinking he seemed kind of small for bantamweight, and Payton Talbot's kind of a large bantamweight. So I'm very curious the size discrepancy between the two. Maybe it's nothing, maybe it's something. But if like Payton Talbot's significantly bigger, I could see Payton Talbot getting it done probably by decision, touching him up on the feet, very close competitive fight. But if they're around the same size, I think Lima's going to mix in the grappling. He doesn't have to dominate Talbot in the grappling. He doesn't have to dominate him in the grappling. He just has to have it in the back of Payton Talbot's head to have him worried about the threat of the takedown so then Lima can land on the feet. And I think that's probably what's going to happen. I'm going to pick Felipe Lima. I do think it can go either way. I do love this matchup. I mean, 26 versus 27 years old. Slight height advantage, or actually decent height advantage for Talbot. 4-inch height advantage, 2-inch reach advantage. And I do think Talbot does have the striking advantage, but I'm going to pick Lima because Talbot, I mean, he got exposed by Nick Aguirre 2 years ago, and he still hasn't shored up the holes in his game. And I know Hany Barcelos is a decent veteran fighter. Just came off a win over Cody Garbrandt a couple weeks ago. But it's hard for me to kind of forget that loss. And Lima looks so good against Miles Johns and so good against Muhammad Naimov. I'm going to pick Lima to really work in his grappling, be able to take Payton Talbot down. Talbot will be able to scramble back up. There's no doubt about that. There's no doubt he's been working on his wrestling nonstop since the Hany Barcelos loss. But I just think that Lima is going to be able to have that takedown threat, which will kind of stall Talbot on the feet. And also Talbot's going to keep his hands low because of the threat of the takedown. And I see Lima really landing good shots on the feet because Lima's a very good striker as well. Again, it's not like he's completely outmatched. So I'm going to go Lima, but I do think Talbot could get it done. And I absolutely love this matchup. And I do think this is a good fight to open up the main card, or this really should be like a featured prelim. It should be like the main prelim fight because I love when they put like young, up-and-coming prospects against each other. Can Payton Talbot bounce back? And now I'm butchering my words. Like Colby Covington? I don't know. I don't think he's going to. So I'm going to pick Felipe Lima via decision. I'm going to say it's a close competitive fight where Lima's grappling is really the difference in the fight. I'm going to say he gets it done. I'm going to say 29-28. Maybe there's one pretty close round and a couple judges give it to Talbot. Next fight on the card. Man, what a banger. We have Brandon Royval versus Joshua Van. Man, this is a good fight, boys. This is a really good fight. This was scheduled after Manel Kape pulled out again. So Manel Kape, just to sum it all up, he cheats to win. against opponents who aren't that good, whether it's groin shots, multiple eye pokes. He pulls out of literally every single fight ever. He has tested positive for PEDs. He's never beaten anyone highly skilled. Every time he has the opportunity to beat anyone highly skilled, he misses weight or pulls out for some reason. And yeah, people hyped him up because he used a homophobic slur in a post-fight interview at one point in time. But nonetheless, he pulls out. Joshua Van steps in against Brandon Royval, man. I'm going to pick Brandon Royval. I've been a big believer in Brandon Royval for a long time. Even picked him to beat Pantoja a couple fights ago. It was a very competitive fight, closer than people probably remember. Since then, beat Brandon Moreno, very close fight again, and then Taishiro Taira. I mean, damn. So 2 split decisions. But I thought he beat Taira pretty cleanly. And it's like Royval, man, he has the craziest he's fought the who's who. He's really fought the who's who. Has a win over Kai Kara France, who's fighting in the co-main event. And Joshua Van's so young, he's 23 years old. Don't get me wrong, Joshua Van has really crisp boxing. But other than that, what else does he have? He doesn't have a lot of variety of attacks like Brandon Royval does. I remember he hurt Kai Kara France with like a spinning elbow. And Royval's so scrappy, man. I don't think Van's going to be able to out-grapple him. That's not happening. I mean, Pantoja could barely hold him down. So you think Van's going to be able to out-grapple him? So it's primarily going to be contested on the feet. We have a more experienced, well-rounded, with a, more diverse attack in Brandon Royval versus the young 23-year-old who's coming off a KO over Bruno Silva 2 weeks ago. While I do respect him for taking this fight, and I think some people are probably going to say, you know what? I got to go Joshua Van. Joshua Van's kind of like a hardcore cult following right now. Like, it's not, he doesn't have a super big fan base, but it's kind of there. And I think some people are going to pick him. Right now, I think Brandon Royval's in his prime. 32 years old, going on 33. Coming off 2 quality wins. Meanwhile, who's Joshua Van beat? Oh, he beat Bruno Silva. Oh, he beat Ray Saruya. Oh, he beat Cody Durden. Oh, he beat Edgar Shirez. Lost to Charles Johnson. I think that this is a good opportunity for him to jump up and try to potentially get a title shot, because if Joshua Van wins this fight, he can get a title shot. I think he bit off more than he could chew. I understand he had to take this opportunity, but I think a guy like Brandon Royval is going to be too tough for him. I just don't think Joshua Van has the experience. Royval has good submission skills as well. So if he hurts Van on the feet, he could snatch up a guillotine. He could snatch up a sub. I could really see Royval going out there and finishing Joshua Van and being like, yeah, look, I respect him for taking the fight. He's a really good fighter. Maybe he'll be champion one day. He's going to contend for about one day. But there's levels to this game. And that's what I think we're going to be talking about after this fight. I think we're going to be like, you know what? There's levels to this game, boys. So I'm going to pick Brandon Royval to get it done. Could Joshua Van get it done? Sure, he could. But he's just too boxing heavy. He's too heavy on the lead foot. He doesn't really throw a lot of kicks. And Royval has a super diverse attack where he's going to chop your legs. He's going to mix in the grappling a little bit. He has good hands. He has 5-round cardio, so you know he's not going to gas out in 3 rounds. And also, Joshua Van's a slow starter, especially in that first round. So maybe Joshua Van goes out there, tries to rip to the body. He does have good, body shots. But I think Royval's too good, too experienced, has fought much better opposition. And I think Joshua Van's just taking this opportunity on short notice, hoping to get a win and potentially a title shot. But I think he's bitten off more than he could chew. I'm going Brandon Royval to get it done. Does he finish him? I'm going to say Brandon Royval wins via decision. I'm not going to pick him to finish Joshua Van. I know Charles Johnson did, but caught him with a really good shot. Joshua Van was doing well in that fight. And Charles Johnson's kind of a wonky style as well, kind of scrappy, awkward movement. Royval does as well. So I'm going to pick Royval to get it done, but I don't think he's going to finish him. I think Joshua Van's good enough on the feet where he'll be able to survive. If Royval does finish him, I would pick like a second-round sub. Catches him on the feet. Van shoots on a sloppy takedown, gets guillotined, or like a ninja choke. Something along those lines from Brandon Royval. But I'm going to go Royval to get it done. 30-27 decision. Maybe one close round in there where Van, kind of gets a participation trophy. But other than that, I'm going Brandon Royval. Next fight on the card, we have the featured fight of the card, which actually I think this is going to be reversed. I think Brandon Royval, Joshua Van's the featured fight. At least that's what it's showing me on Tapology. But for right now, the UFC's website, featured fight on the card, we have Beneil Dariush versus Renato Moicano. This fight was originally booked for January of this year. And we know what happened. Armin got injured, had to pull out. Moicano got elevated to the main event against Islam. And people like Ariel and Mighty Mouse were like, yeah, man, this is a dangerous opponent. And then Islam absolutely brutally starched him out in the first round. Easy work. I think Renato Moicano, because he's kind of outspoken and he kind of flows with like the right wing gimmick kind of a bit, I think he's crazy overrated, man. I really do think he's crazy overrated. I know, he only lost to Islam Makhachev in recent memory, but even the Benoit Saint-Denis fight, had it not been for that, okay, I'm being a little bit sarcastic there, but honestly, I think Benoit Saint-Denis underestimated Moicano. He desperately tried to get up and took a ridiculous amount of damage. I think that fight, you book it 10 times, could go either way, genuinely, still. I know people might think that's a crazy take. Before that, he beat Jalen Turner. Jalen Turner's a little scrub, and Jalen Turner could have KO'd him in the first round. Before that, beat Drew Dober. Drew Dober hurt him badly. That was a close fight. Before that, beat Brad Riddell. These just aren't the names that are like, man, Moicano is very good. And back in that January card, UFC, I believe 311, I picked Beneil Dariush. And I know he hasn't fought in a bit. Not really to any fault of his own because he lost his opponent at 311. And look who he's losing to. Armin Tsarukyan and Charles Oliveira. Before that, beat Mateusz Gamrot. Before that, beat Tony Ferguson when Tony Ferguson was still good. Before that, beat Diego Ferreira. I don't like the inactivity from Beneil Dariush, but his striking is better than Moicano's. Moicano's striking is dog doo-doo. It's dog doo-doo. It's dog shit. And I think Moicano's going to have to rely on the grappling. And if Gamrot is getting absolutely shut down in the grappling, how can I expect Moicano to out-grapple him? And I know Beneil's getting old. He's 36 years old, but so's Moicano. I mean, Beneil's probably 45, to be honest. But I think if this fight stays on the feet, Beneil Dariush easily wins. Has nasty body kicks, has good hands. Was even landing on Charles Oliveira. Now, granted, Beneil's stuck in the mud a bit, but so's Moicano, especially on the feet. Moicano's not the greatest striker. He's more of a grappling jiu-jitsu specialist. That's a bit of an exaggeration, but you get my point. So I know everyone's probably going to pick Moicano. Yeah, 70% on Tapology's picking Moicano. I'm going to stick with Beneil. I see a fight where Beneil goes out there, stuffs the takedowns, lands on the feet. Maybe like Moicano even tries to like create scrambles and ends up on bottom for a little bit, and Dariush lands some good ground and pound. But I think on the feet, unless Dariush has completely wasted away in the last year and a half that he sat out, I think he easily beats Moicano on the feet. And like you look at these losses, again, it's against Armin. Armin should be fighting for the title on this very card. Charles Oliveira is fighting for the title. So these losses, I feel like you can't really take into account. And I know you could say the same for Moicano, but look at the wins. They're not against the greatest opposition at all. I mean, all guys that aren't even in the top 15 anymore. So I think this is the fight we should have found out how good Moicano truly was before potentially he moved up to like a number one contender fight. Ultimately, we didn't get it at 311 because he had to step in and fight Islam. But I think that Moicano is overrated. I think Beneil Dariush will stuff the takedowns. If he stuffs the takedowns, I think Dariush is much better on the feet. And I think Dariush gets it done. Beats up the body kicks, lands with his hands. Moicano kind of stuck in the mud, shooting takedowns, maybe even pulling guard a little bit. And I think Dariush gets it done. I mean, how can you think back? And I know it was a while ago, but think back to that Gamrot fight. He's tagging Gamrot on the feet. There was that one shot that should have knocked Gamrot out cold. Stuffing the takedowns with ease. I don't think Moicano would beat Gamrot. I think Gamrot would beat Moicano. Maybe Moicano could catch him in a sub, but I don't think that would happen. And I know MMA math doesn't always work, but I'm just saying all these combined together, level of opposition, who they fought. And also, I kind of like that Beneil's taking the time off. It's not like he's been off for 3 years. He's been off a year and a half after getting KO'd back-to-back fights against elite opposition. So I kind of like he's taking some time off. I think he gets it done. I'm going to say Beneil Dariush 30-27 unanimous decision win over Renato Moicano. Next fight on the card, we have the co-main event. Alexandre Pantoja versus Kai Kara France for the flyweight title. This is actually a rematch. They originally fought on The Ultimate Fighter many, many moons ago. It was kind of, it was not super eventful. Pantoja won via decision. I know the easy pick is Pantoja. I truly know the easy pick is Pantoja. I picked Pantoja to steamroll Kaya Sakura. I picked Pantoja to beat Steve Erceg. I picked Brandon Royval to beat Pantoja. I picked Brandon Moreno to beat Pantoja. That was a razor close fight. Kai Kara France, man. He doesn't even have like this crazy win streak to get a title shot. He beat Steve Erceg, KO'd Steve Erceg. Everyone thought Steve Erceg was going to beat him because they were giving him a participation trophy for going 5 rounds with Pantoja. Before that, lost to Amir Albazi. He arguably won that fight. I thought he won that fight. Before that, lost to Brandon Moreno in like an interim flyweight title fight. He was doing very well in that fight. Doing very, very well before he got caught to the liver and finished. Before that, beat Askar Askarov. That was a while ago. Askar Askarov was able to grapple him, take his back, control him a bit, but wasn't able to really get a finish. Before that, KO'd Cody Garbrandt, where he had crawling around the cage like a dog. Listen, I think Pantoja, he's close to flyweight GOAT, honestly. I think his resume right now may argue, I would have to compare it side by side, but would potentially top Mighty Mouse Johnson. I know because he's kind of popular on YouTube now, people kind of glaze him a little bit more than they were shitting on him back in the day for not fighting good opposition. But I think Pantoja's right up there with flyweight GOAT is what I'm trying to say. His jiu-jitsu is unbelievable. His submission ability is unbelievable. His striking is wild and crazy, but he uses it to create chaos. And the next thing you know, boom, like that, he's on your back. He's latching up a rear naked choke. That win against Alex Perez, he just walked him down. Like he wanted to take his lunch money and just brutalized him, took his back and subbed him in the first round. It was beautiful performance. And look at the level of opposition since then, man. He's beaten guys that Kai Kara is losing to, and he has a win over Kai Kara. So I know the easy pick is Pantoja. With that being said, somebody, when you're a champion for so long, eventually you got to lose. Eventually you got to lose. And I know that sounds crazy. But I'm thinking of this matchup, man. Kai Kara France historically has amazing takedown defense. Kai Kara France on the feet is one of the few flyweights that has KO power. You put that together, man. Pantoja wading in. He's taken a lot of damage. He's been in a lot of wars. I know he didn't take any damage in that Sakura fight, but took a decent amount of damage against Steve Erceg. Took a decent amount of damage against Royval. Took a lot of damage against Brandon Moreno. And even before that in his career, has taken some damage. I think Kai Kara France potentially gets it done. I think, I do worry because if Pantoja gets your back, there's no getting him off of you. And we've seen Kai Kara get controlled a bit by Askar Askarov, but I think Kai Kara has improved vastly since then. And again, I know it's kind of like, he only won 1 out of his last 3, but split decision against Amir Albazi where he did win. He should have won. And then the Brandon Moreno fight, I don't want to give him a participation trophy here, but I'm saying when you're looking at it surely from assessing his skills, he was doing very well against Brandon Moreno before he got caught with that body kick. And you have a Pantoja who's 35 years old on a crazy long winning streak. When's the last time Pantoja lost? That's what I need to look up right now. He hasn't lost since he lost to Askar Askarov back in 2020. It's been 5 years. It's been 5 years since Pantoja lost. By the way, have you guys seen, I don't usually talk about this type of stuff. Have you seen Pantoja's shorts? I seen them on Twitter earlier. They look actually crazy, like good, which usually I don't even talk about that type of stuff. Listen, I think Pantoja's due to lose, boys. And I think Kai Kara France is a recipe for disaster for Pantoja. Stuffs the takedowns, has nasty boxing, has brutal KO power. Can Pantoja create the chaos, snatch up his back? Sure. We know Kai Kara France has 5-round cardio. He's shucking off takedowns of Amir Albazi, who's very big and strong, who's not that good. Not as good as Pantoja by any means. And this is the fight that he's won it for so long. He's getting another opportunity, this time to fight for the undisputed title. I think he goes out there. It's going to be a competitive fight. There's going to be some moments where Pantoja gets his back and is looking to wrap up a rear naked. But maybe he only got it with 2 minutes left in the round. And Kai Kara just plays it safe and is able to defend the rear naked choke. Kai Kara France, he's not an easy guy to sub. He's really not. He has 2 losses via sub. Or he has 3 losses via sub. And I think one of them was against Brandon Royval. He was brutally hurt there. The other one before that was all the way back in 2014. So again, he got brutally rocked by Royval and then Brandon Royval latched up a guillotine. What I'm trying to say is Kai Kara France has really good submission and, just overall jiu-jitsu, submission defense and good jiu-jitsu. And I think he can tough it out in some bad positions against Pantoja. And I think Pantoja, plotting forward, he puts his chin there to be had. Even Asakura landed a couple good shots. And Kai Kara-France has arguably the best power, if I'm not thinking of somebody right now, forgive me, arguably has the best power in the flyweight division. 35 years old, long-ass win streak, hasn't lost in 5 years, taken a lot of damage against a stylistic matchup that could be problematic. You know what? I know this is going to be crazy, boys. I'm picking Kai Kara-France, and I'm picking him to win via finish. I think Kai Kara-France is going to chin him. I tell you guys all the time, we have to appreciate these guys when they're in their special moment in time. And I think Pantoja, for a long time, has been in that special moment. But like that, boom, it can change. I think it changes at UFC 317 in the co-main event. I think Kai Kara-France will shuck off the takedowns. He'll survive bad positions. And he'll be tagging him on the feet. And Kai Kara-France has nasty power. I know Pantoja has an iron chin, but at some point it's got to crack. So I'm going to pick Kai Kara-France to get it done in the rematch. I'm going to say third round KO. I don't think he's going to get it done in the first round. I think he's going to land some good shots. I think Pantoja will put him in some bad positions where we'll be like holding our breath like, oh shit, he's going to get a rear naked here. But I think ultimately, as the fight goes on, Pantoja, he has great cardio, but he does slow down. And he starts kind of getting really sluggish, where Kai Kara can fight at a nice fluid pace the entire fight. Now, granted, it depends on how Pantoja's pressing him. But I think as the fight goes on, I think Kai Kara is just going to start landing better shots. And eventually will chin him in the third round to become the new flyweight champion. So I'm going to go Kai Kara-France third round TKO, as crazy as that sounds. Now watch Pantoja go out there, just ragdoll him to the ground in the first round and rear naked choke him. Could happen. If you're picking Pantoja, I would pick him via decision. Like if I was going to pick Pantoja, I was back and forth on this fight, I would pick him to just out-grapple him 3 rounds to 2. But I do think this is a very, very tough matchup for both guys. But I'm going with the younger 32-year-old Kai Kara-France to get it done in the upset in the co-main event to become your new flyweight champion. Next fight on the card, we have the main event. Ilia Topuria versus Charles Oliveira for the lightweight title. First off, boys, this should be Ilia Topuria versus Arman Tsarukyan. It really should. But it is what it is. It's Charles Oliveira. Charles Oliveira, former champion, on a 1-fight win streak against Michael Chandler. 35 years old, almost 36. I have picked against Charles Oliveira since I have my YouTube channel. I started my YouTube channel in 2021. Since the YouTube channel, I picked against Charles Oliveira one time. That one time was Arman Tsarukyan. I ended up being right. It was a split decision, but I thought Arman pretty clearly won that fight. He's getting up there, boys. He's really getting up there in age. He gets dropped in every fight. You look back, even Chandler, Dirty Mike, hurts him in the 5th round, almost finishes him. An incompetent ref might have stepped in and gave Chandler a win, which would have been absolutely bogus. And we'd never get to see him brutalized by Paddy Pimblett. But you're just looking at his resume. I know he's fought the best of the best. I understand that. I understand he's a former champion. But he's just trading wins and losses recently. Lost to Arman, lost to Islam. And I know before that hadn't lost in a while. But you're looking at a guy who's 2-2 since 2022. Hasn't strung a win streak together since 2022. He's coming off a win over Michael Chandler, who's literally a scrub who doesn't even belong in the top 15. Arman fight was pretty close. I thought Arman clearly won. It shouldn't have been a split decision. But, man, it's just Ilia's a really tough matchup for Charles. Because you look back at the Islam fight. What did Islam have over Charles Oliveira? Well, one, obviously, superior striking, but he wasn't afraid to follow him to the ground. You see in the past, whether it's Dustin Poirier, whether it's Justin Gaethje, or somebody else I'm not thinking of right now, you drop Charles Oliveira, you're scared to engage with him on the ground. Ilia Topuria, some newer fans don't realize this. Ilia Topuria, before the UFC, primarily a grappler and submission threat. I mean, you look at his resume, he has a decent amount of submissions. He has 8 wins via submissions. He has more submission wins than KOs. He's not going to be worried about following Charles Oliveira to the ground at all. And you look at Topuria's recent streak, he beat Max Holloway, embarrassed Max Holloway, pointed to the ground, gave Holloway a chance. Prove you're the BMF. And Holloway ran for the hills. The guy who claims to be the best boxer in the UFC ran from a striking exchange against Ilia Topuria. Before that, brutally KO'd Volkanovski. Now, granted, That was a diminished Volkanovski, but still, I mean, he looked very impressive in that fight. Before that, he beat Josh Emmett. Before that, he beat Bryce Mitchell. None of those wins are all that impressive. I think Ilia is actually a bit overrated right now. But I'm thinking about how a match against him versus Oliveira plays out. And I just think Oliveira's too hittable. Topuria's boxing has been getting better with every single fight. He's still young. He's 28 years old. Charles is going on 36. He's been around forever. And really, Charles is like 40 in MMA years because he's been fighting since he was like 20 in the UFC alone. I do think there is a path to victory for Charles. And I think it's brutalizing Ilia in the clinch early and often because Charles is really nasty in the clinch. Nasty pointed knees to the body. Good short, sharp elbows in the clinch as well. Good dirty boxing as well. But I think if this fight stays at boxing range and Oliveira really doesn't try to put the pressure on Ilia Topuria, I think Topuria is going to just tag him on the feet, drop him. I think Topuria is going to wave him up too. But if it comes down to it, if it is a competitive fight, Topuria will not be scared to engage on the ground with Charles Oliveira. He will follow him to the ground. And I just see Topuria outboxing him on the feet. I don't think Oliveira is going to be able to go out there and out-wrestle him. Oliveira's wrestling is very good. We've seen him take down and dominate Michael Chandler. Even if he takes down Topuria, Topuria has elite-level BJJ and submission skills and submission defense. So it's like, where does Charles, like, is Charles going to go out there and ragdoll him to the ground and control him like he did Chandler? No. Chandler's a bum. Ilia Topuria is good. Now, we've never really seen somebody try to implement that game plan. So basically, this fight's going to be most likely contested on the feet. And I just think Topuria has more firepower, man. He's the crisper boxer. And I think Oliveira, when you look back at his history of getting dropped by this guy and that guy and this guy, Topuria is a nightmare matchup in that respect because he has nasty power, super technical boxing, and very defensively responsible. If Oliveira doesn't turn this into a war, he's going to get outboxed. And he's probably going to get finished. Which is crazy. I mean, that's going to be 3 crazy wins for Topuria in a row. Volkanovski, Max Holloway, and then Oliveira. That's going to be a great name on his resume. But, I mean, I guess going in this fight, maybe Topuria, maybe the power doesn't translate as well. He did get head kicked brutally by Jai Herbert, but he was able to come back and get a brutal KO there. But I don't know, man. I don't know. I just think Topuria is too defensively sound and his striking is too damn good. And it's not like he's going to put himself in a bad situation on the ground and get subbed. So Charles is going to have to find something that hurts Topuria. Maybe a head kick. I mean, he was smashing those head kicks against, I think, Chandler as well as Beneil Dariush. We've seen him get caught with a head kick before. Maybe Oliveira can hit him with that. But I really think the path to victory is for Oliveira to crowd him badly and just try to brutalize him to the body and really put Topuria in a situation that he's never been in before, which is facing a little bit of adversity in there because we know Oliveira has before. Plenty of times. So maybe the size coming up a weight class is going to be too much for Topuria. I don't think so. I think that Ilia Topuria is going to be too crisp on the feet. His jiu-jitsu is good enough to hang in on the ground. If he does get taken down, I think he can scramble back up. I do wonder about that a little bit because I do think back to that first round against Bryce Mitchell where he's getting taken down and controlled by Bryce Mitchell a bit. I don't know. I think he's probably shored that up. And he has to win this fight. He really I mean, imagine the level of shit he's going to eat if he gets starched out by Charles Oliveira. So I think it's going to be on the feet. I think Charles will try to get a little bit reckless. Boom, clipped and hurt and dropped. Topuria waves him up. Charles is going to be a little bit more tentative, and that's when Topuria is really going to settle in, sit down on his punches, turn over on his punches, and just start tagging Charles. And Charles is going to be falling all over the cage, falling to his back, trying to call Topuria into his guard. But Topuria is going to know, I got a wounded animal here. I can go down there and kind of play the jiu-jitsu game with him. But at the same time, why not let him up and just keep boxing him up on the feet instead of risking being on the ground with a dangerous Charles Oliveira? I'm going to go Ilia Topuria to get it done second round KO. I could see it being like a second or third round TKO, but I do think Topuria gets him out of there. I really do. The amount of damage Charles has taken over the course of his career, the power that Ilia Topuria has shown throughout his career, 16-0, younger. I mean, he's 28 years old, 7 years younger. I mean, damn near 8 years younger because Oliveira's about to turn 37. Now, Oliveira does have a 3-inch height advantage and a 5-inch reach advantage, but I think Topuria will close that distance. So I think Charles is going to have to implement a really smart game plan of crowding him, beating him up in the clinch, maybe chopping the legs from range because Topuria is really heavy on that lead leg. But I just think when the fight starts, Topuria is going to land a couple really good shots, and it's really going to get the respect of Charles Oliveira. And then Oliveira is going to be more tentative than you typically see him. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he realizes, this is probably my last shot for a title, maybe at 36. Maybe not, honestly. The lightweight division doesn't have particularly a lot of up-and-coming talent. They keep getting sent back by kind of the old guard. But he gets this opportunity off a one-fight win streak over Michael Chandler. And I think he loses. I think Topuria is going to get it done and going to become the new lightweight champion. And potentially the Paddy fight is right down the line. Right down the line. I'd like to see the Arman fight. If this was Topuria Arman, if you guys have been following the channel at all, I've been really high on Arman for a while. I'd pick Arman to beat Topuria. Be razor close. I'd be much more hyped for that fight. And I think it is crazy that people are just counting out Charles Oliveira. Like, Charles Oliveira has no chance. He definitely has a chance. Don't get me wrong. If Jai Herbert's rocking you on the feet, crazy-ass Charles Oliveira in a war can hurt you bad and melt you. So I think counting out Charles Oliveira is a little bit insane. But I do think Ilia Topuria wins. 2 clean on the feet and 2 defensively responsible. We'll know early, man. If Oliveira really starts brutalizing that body in the clinch early and really is pushing the pace on Topuria and he's able to avoid some of those big counter shots from Topuria, maybe he'll be able to get it done. But either way, I think this fight ends in a finish. If Oliveira wins, I think he probably KOs or subs Topuria. I just don't see it happening. And I think to sub him, he's going to have to rock him, then sub him. I just don't think he's going to take him down and brutalize him and force his way into like a sub, brute force a sub. I think it would really have to be like rocking him on the feet, following him to the ground, snatching up a guillotine, something along those lines. But yeah, I think Topuria gets it done. 2nd round KO. Let me know what you guys think. I'm curious. Who you guys picking in the main event? Make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. I'll be live streaming UFC 317 if you care to join me on Saturday night. So like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video.